Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for Monday, July 21st, 2025. The first matter on the agenda tonight will be the approval of the minutes of June 16th, 2025. Any of the board members have any comments or corrections? If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Okay, moving along. Any opposition? Hearing none, no minutes are approved. Moving along, we have continued business for a tree hearing, Van Greenby Road, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 87.5, and the Chapter 260 of the Lowell Code Ordinances. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons about the proposed removal of one tree at 2 Van Greenby Road with a diameter approximately 34 inches, one tree at 24 Van Greenby Road with a diameter of approximately 28 inches, one tree at 29 Van Greenby Road with a diameter of approximately 40 inches, two trees at 61 Van Greenby Road with approximately 31 inches and 29 inches, and one tree at 70 Van Greenby Road with a diameter of approximately 30 inches, and two trees at 75 Van Greenby Road with approximate diameter of 28 inches and 23 inches. The removal of these trees is necessary to maintain the integrity of the public sidewalk and utilities. Is anybody here for the tree, on behalf of the tree hearing? Yes. Just come to the microphone.
So I know it was continued from last time. I was just wondering if there was a timeline for making the decision on whether or not the trees will come down.
Okay. So you're looking for more time to figure out where you're going to put the trees?
No. I'm wondering if when is the decision going to be made whether or not they're definitely coming down?
Oh.
Yeah, he's not decent.
Okay. Yes. So we received a letter from the Mr. Sayer, I believe it's in the packet. So they're requesting a continuance to work out more of how they're going to replant the trees, I believe the letter said. I think I have a copy of it here. So they were requesting a continuance. Let's see if I have it here. Yeah, received it. When received it? Just recently. I should get to pull it up here. What is it? Yes, I'm looking for a continuance so they can figure out where they're going to replant the trees, I believe is what the status is. Okay, yeah, thanks, right, okay. DPD Engineering Office has requested a continuance for the Van Greenby tree hearing so that they have more time to get their plans together currently. And we see this, that September 4th was the next available meeting. And that's what we received from the engineer's office in DPW. So I guess there's nobody here tonight from engineering or DPW? I guess not. Okay, so hopefully they'll have those answers at the next meeting. What's the request of the board in regards to the continuance?
Mr. Chairman, I know when the correspondence went out, it was suggested, I mean, we have an August 18th meeting, and then we have a September 4th meeting. I think it was correspondence we received listed 3 items on the agenda for August 18th. It was suggested, and I would have no issue making a motion that we continue it to September 4th to allow, obviously, to have them enough time to really, hopefully, they're going to have everything we requested at the last meeting for the hearing. There's nobody here to object from DPW, so I would make the motion that we continue the matter to the September 4th meeting.
Okay, so the motion on the floor, do we have a second? Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. So that matter will be continued till September 4th, and hopefully we'll have more information.
I just have, will the DPW, will they have the plan for, if the trees come down, what the plan is to make?
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah,
Is-
that's what we asked for, right there?
That's what we asked for the last meeting.
I mean,
Yeah.
Dan's been asking quite a bit each
So,
time they come in.
And my last question, there's 2 streets over, there is repaving and new curbs and sidewalks put in. Do you know, is that job considered complete? It's on Ruth Street?
No idea.
No idea?
That would be beyond the purview of this board,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
so,
They don't,
Yeah, unless they're coming before us for the tree hearings, we don't hear about it.
yeah.
Okay, because it was listed on the planning board as a paving, a repaving. It's on the planning board side, that's why I wasn't sure, because it's, the way that it was done, if it's completed, I would have a real issue with it if that was the plan for V and Greenby. So I just want to know if the DPW will have a plan in place for September 4th.
So just so we can keep in mind, what didn't you like about Ruth Street? I'm curious.
The curb, the street, and the driveways are uneven. They don't meet. There's gaps. People's sprinklers are hanging off their lawn. There's gas lines that are sticking up a couple inches. So it's. I mean, if you take a drive over, you'll see it's.
On Ruth?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well, again, I just will repeat, I don't want the expectation, they're tree hearings, and we start to creep a little bit at the things that don't belong to the planning board, but that really is DPW. I would really contact DPW. It's the engineers department, there's somebody from the city's engineer department that should be overseeing the project. So I actually would encourage you to contact DPW or the city's engineer department with those types of questions.
I'll do that. I just would consider that connected. If they're going to remove trees, there's got to be a plan of what it's going to look like after. So I would hope that would be something that you would keep in mind prior to either approving or rejecting.
Again, I just want to keep in mind what the hearing is about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just, we do kind of creep beyond that, but it really is about the trees themselves.
Okay.
The engineering of the street is a little different. I will just comment, though, on the material for the September 4th meeting. That should be uploaded to the city's website. So prior to that meeting, every piece of documentation that we have is accessible to the public. So you can actually go into the city website, go under, the alphabet for agendas and material, and, planning board, go under P, planning board, and it'll be projects under review, and you'll see the Van Greenby tree hearing, and then if you click on that, the DPD should have uploaded the documents there. So everything that we're looking at for that meeting, you should be able to view as well. All right? Okay.
thank you. Okay, so that matter has been continued to September 4th. The next matter, we have a definitive subdivision, 129 Llewellyn and 115 Christian Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Christian Hill Homes, LLC, to subdivide the property at the above-mentioned address into 17 lots, to construct a new single-family home on each lot. The subject property is located in a suburban, single-family zoning district. The project requires definitive subdivision approval from the Lowell Planning Board under Lowell Subdivision of Land Regulations. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Plunkett, representing the applicant, Christian Hill Homes LLC. With me here tonight also is Mark O'Hara from O'Hara Engineering Services, who is the engineer in charge of the site development. Mr. Chairman, this is a fairly straightforward request. Despite the fact that it's under subdivision approval, which pertains to ingress and egress to the lots to be developed, this is captured under the city's ordinance that requires even for A&R lots to come in. But it's for a good purpose to let the public know what's going on. And but when you look at the development, it's a situation where the applicant is looking to build out 17 homes. And each lot is going to have full compliance with all dimensional requirements, single-family house on every single parcel, no waivers, no variances, all utilities already in the street, access already through public roads. It's going to be a build-out of high-quality homes. Certainly, today in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, one of the major pushes on the state level, as well as, what a lot of the municipalities are picking up on, is the need to create housing for the purposes of addressing, the number one issue in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is affordable housing, which is directly related to failure to produce residential housing. So this is an opportunity to take this parcel of land, build out 17 homes, again, everything to, compliance with the ordinance, off-street parking, and again, no variances, no waivers required at all. So I think it's a good opportunity for the use of this land. It's going to be high-quality homes. That'll certainly have a positive effect on the neighborhood in general when you're going to have a build-out of this type of residential development. So I'm going to turn it over, unless there's any questions directly from the board at this time. I'd like to turn it over to Mark O'Hara just to go over some of the details on the plan, that he's been in contact with the city on certain aspects of the plan itself, as well as dealing with some of the, I know it was one abutter or a couple of abutters that had some questions, and that tried, addressing whatever questions that have come up. So that, Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions of me, I'll turn it over to Mr. O'Hara.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, David. For the record, Mark O'Hara, O'Hara Engineering, 21 Mansion Drive, Lowell, Massachusetts. I am a civil engineer. I was not initially involved with this project, although I did look into it a few years ago. But the applicant approached me and said that the city, that there was an oversight that even though it's approval not required, it does require approval when there's more than 3 lots that have been created. So the additional information that the city was looking for was grading, erosion control, stormwater. As David had mentioned, these are existing roads. It's on Christian Hill, so it's Christian Street, Reservoir Street, and Llewellyn Street. It's hard to believe that you have 17 lots that meet existing lot area requirements and frontage in the city of Lowell. And it's funny, I was thinking tonight that the first subdivision I ever did was in Pawtucketville for Donald Van Greenby, Follow the Road extension, but that was 30 years ago. So now you have to wear glasses to read. I guess I've been doing this quite a while. So for me, it was pretty straightforward. We did meet with the city. We said, we're here to work with you. We will get whatever permits that we need. These are, as David had mentioned, these are high-quality homes that they're going to be building in this area. I think overall it's a great project. I'm very familiar with the site. I live on the other side of the river, but I drove up and down those streets for about 20 years. My kids, who are now grown up, went to St. Michael's School, so no busing, so I would drop them off and pick them up from school for most of their schooling. So Christian Street, it's steep. It's 13% grade at max. I want to say Llewellyn at the very beginning of it, or I should say at the lower end of it, is even steeper than that. There's nothing we can do about it. There are existing homes. But what the city had realized is that, and I remember this personally, that there was some stormwater every once in a while. Usually it was in the spring, rainstorm after a deep snowpack event. Water would make its way onto Christian Street. And it was like, is that going to be black ice or is it wet pavement? And I would try to avoid that area. But since then, the city had done its own improvements on Christian Street, putting in some infiltration drains, an additional catch basin, and they've, from what I can see, have alleviated most of that drainage challenges. When we did meet with the city, we met with engineering, with staff, with wastewater division, and that was one of their concerns was, can you extend or continue the work that we've done going farther down Christian Street and put those infiltration types of systems in to try to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff that's coming off the site. So we incorporated that into our plans. The biggest challenge that I had for this site was trying to get the lots to meet the minimum 90% requirement, or I should say 90% of the minimum lot area has to have a slope of less than 6%. So this is similar to the subdivision, or at least I think another A&R lots that were on Mansur back in the probably early 2007, 8, somewhere around then. You have a steep road with grading, and they were able to terrace those lots in such a way that they were able to meet that, that requirement. So other than that, there are existing utilities. It's got water, it's got sewer. Each one of the houses is going to be tied into the water and the sewer. I believe they're going to be heated with gas, either natural gas or where natural gas is not available, it will be propane. Since then, the applicant has began construction on 2 of the lots, lots 16 and 17. Lot 17, they're framing the house. It's probably getting pretty close to where they'll have it weather tight within the next couple of weeks. That's an example of a house that they're going to be building, although I've been speaking with the applicant. He thinks the house is maybe a little bit smaller. That's actually a 3,000 square foot house, not including the 2-car garage. So I think he'd like to get something in the neighborhood of 2,300, 2,500 square feet with also 2-car garage. There's plenty of parking, 2 spaces in the garage, and then there's 4 possible spaces on the driveway. The work that has happened now, like I mentioned, was the existing, the lots 16 and 17 are under construction. Lot 16 is just a foundation. And that was, we worked with the city. The applicant believed he was purchasing a ready-to-build turnkey operation, start right up, and it wasn't until that the deal was done that the city said, you have to come back and get a subdivision approval. So we worked with the city, created a 3-lot subdivision, not to circumvent any of the regulations, but the applicant is paying an awful lot in interest on the note that he's floating to build these houses, so he was able to get a start. So I'm here really just to answer any questions any of the abutters may have or that the board members may have, and I think I'll leave it at that, and like I said, I'm here to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else on behalf of the applicant, Attorney Plunkett? Anybody else to speak at this time? Okay. All right, this time I'll open it up to the public. Anybody here this evening like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? Anybody in favor? Favor? Hearing none. Anybody in opposition? If you just come to the microphone, give us a name and address, please.
Thank you. Corey Robinson, 5 West 10th Street, Lowell. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm in opposition. I have some real concerns. I have had conversations with some of the abutters. One gentleman, his backyard abuts right against his property. They were involved when one of our local land use boards put a stop work order on due to work that was being done at the time in potential wetland situation. It's been appealed, and obviously where we are now, but this gentleman couldn't make it. He got a rare opportunity to take a vacation, and a few of them were very clear about their concerns. I mean, time and time again we see, I think it's a great sales pitch because it's a buzzword that's being thrown around statewide. This is housing. We need housing. We need housing. I agree. The creation of housing has to happen. But when we start hearing affordable housing and they're pitching potentially these units going at about $850K or better per unit, I don't think that has any place in this conversation. I think some of the things that we need to really put our eyes on, and I hope the planning board looks at this with the subdivision that's before you tonight, is they talked about the city has done some work in that area because water used to weep out of that location. Yeah, and that was when it was covered in brush, overgrowth, trees, and grass. We'd get some weeping in the spring and in the fall. Yes, they put in a couple basins. Now we're talking about a complete cleared parcel. I don't know the total acreage of the site, but it took quite some time to even get the basic silt and stormwater mitigation efforts set up before any construction even happened. I've had concerns brought to me from neighbors that abut the property that their homes being covered in dust. There's no operational water while construction's going during this subdivision process, in the construction process. I mean, basic facts. One mature tree can reduce stormwater runoff by over 1,000 gallons a year. That's just one. Many were clear cut over in this area. The leaves, branches, trunks intercept rainfall and delay during peak flow. The 17 roofs going in there, they're not going to do the same thing. Root growth and decomposition of organic matter increase rate of capacity and rate of infiltration and reduce surface flow. The 17 driveways are not going to do that. I think the neighborhood deserves clear cut, what are the engineered stormwater mitigation efforts? Because, I mean, even if you look at the lot, the house at the bottom corner on, I believe it's Reservoir, that abuts this property, they're going to get buried. That land is sloped right towards that property that sits right at the bottom of this development project. I don't see how we can look to a couple basins the city installed to handle this volume. I mean, it's a whole different world now. There's nothing to catch and break this stormwater that's coming down onto this large parcel. And so when you start subdividing out and putting, again, 17 driveways impervious surface, 17 roofs impervious surface, I think there needs to be some well thought out engineered plans to be able to manage all this stormwater. I mean, we understand that it is approval not required project, and development happens. But again, I think something this neighborhood deserves and the city deserves is the right type of development projects, and we're bringing these concerns to the land use boards. This is the only opportunity we've even really had to address any land use board because approval not required. Thank God for the trigger. We had 3 or more in a continuous space to come before a planning board or a local land use board for subdivision approval. Without that, the neighborhood has been left voiceless through this whole process. When they turned around and said there was wetlands potentially, we saw how that went. That got overturned on a higher level. Nothing you could do, that's water over the dam. But we're looking for that one main thing, that the engineered plans for stormwater mitigation efforts on something that's eradicated all the green space that was there, and we're putting in a ton of impervious surface. I mean, you're talking 3,000 square foot homes. The roof, look at the roof on something that size plus driveway. I mean, I don't know what the volume is. Some communities actually charge if you're putting stormwater out onto public roadway. I don't believe Lowell does that, and nor am I advocating for anything like that. But I am saying, please, I hope this board takes into heavy consideration that there's no way what the city has done while this was all overgrown and green is enough to mitigate what's going to be coming off that property once this is fully built out. And I mean, we don't even know. The neighborhood has had many questions throughout this process, but again, we haven't had an opportunity to even ask those questions. I've had questions, soil testing. I mean, if it's leaching out, what's the soil test numbers look like? None of that has ever been afforded to the neighborhood as a result of approval not required. But for what we're here tonight with the subdivision, please, I really hope that there's a strong, solid, well thought out, engineered surface water, stormwater mitigation plan in this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Harrington, Christian Street, Lowell. It's well known that some of the area that's being developed at one time was considered by the City of Lowell and the Conservation Commission as being wetlands. I understand once the state ruled it wasn't wetlands, that eliminated the wetlands. It didn't eliminate the water. There are 3 areas of proposed housing, I think it's 11, 12, and 13, that was the area that the Conservation Commission thought was wetlands. Right now, there is a plan by the city of Lowell to take down 63 trees at the reservoir, which is a couple hundred yards uphill from where this project is going to take place. There's water. These trees eat up gallons and gallons of water every single day. Every one of those trees is uphill, and all that water is going to just flow right down back into the apple orchard, or flow into the apple orchard, not back in, flow into the apple orchard. And I think that it's going to affect at least, I'm not an engineer, I think it's 11, 12, and 13, but I might be wrong on the area that I'm concerned with here. What can be done by the city planning board to protect the people that are going to end up buying these houses, that they aren't flooded out 2 months after they buy the house? I think there's an awful lot of water coming off that hill, and I know that almost, I would say, 50, 60% of the houses up there have some kind of either a French drain or, I don't know, what's it called? What? Sump pumps. I know I have both, and I live above the reservoir. Okay? The other thing I wanted to bring up, and for many of the people that have lived up on that hill for years have heard stories of the original owner of the apple orchard allowing the Lowell Gas Company and a gas station on Bridge Street to dump contaminated waste into an area on Llewellyn Street. Nobody has ever been able to find anything in writing on this, and believe me, the neighbors have looked. I was wondering if there's anything that the city can have the developer go in and dig out, I think it's lot 1 and 2, or just lot 1, and make sure that there isn't anything contaminated in that ground. I reflect back on the area of down on Humphrey Street, where condos were built years and years ago, and now they find out it's sitting on contaminated property. I don't want to see this happen up on Christian Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Sandy McNamara, President of Centerville Community Coalition. And my concern, too, is the runoff of the water. I don't know if anybody had taken a trip down there yesterday, but it was like flood. The runoff was crazy. It was like a mud pit. It was just, the flow that came down the street was like, at one point I thought it was going to move my car at the worst part of the rain yesterday. But again, that's a big concern of a lot of people that have addressed it to me, was the runoff. And the other issue was when the trees were there. It was an apple orchard. We all know that. I know for a fact that they had treated the trees to non-develop because their concern was everybody was getting older, they couldn't take care of it, people would jump in the fence, blah, blah, blah. So they treated the trees so they would no longer have growth for the apples. So again, that would be a contaminant that I would be concerned with, that they had to do it year after year after year until the growth stopped for the apples. And then the other issue was that, again, I believe they're going to go market rate for sale, of course. So in this, and again, the city of Lowell is looking for homes. Who in God's name can afford market rate? And that's not what the city's looking for. People with all kinds of money to purchase these homes, which they're going to be gorgeous, they'll probably be worth the money. But again, for the people that are looking, and the city is looking for to place people, is definitely not up on the hill. So I think there's a lot this developer has to look at to satisfy the neighborhood and to be sure that there is no runoff because it's going to happen. I don't care what anybody says. And for the poor homeowners that are at the beginning, they're going to be flooded. Whether they like it or not, they're going to be flooded. Like many have spoke, how the trees would, suck up so much water, gallons of water. That will no longer be the case. Not only from the orchard site, but now from the reservoir. With all the trees that are being taken down there, the water has to go somewhere. And it all flows downhill. And again, thank you for your time. And I hope the board really takes a look at the issues that are really there, that are going to be a big issue when it's too late. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Andy Richard, 35 Reservoir Street. The city has not really addressed the water problem coming off the res. I mean, they took away the sidewalk on Reservoir Street, put a pipe in the ground, and connected it to the sewer drain, and that didn't solve the problem because we have big trucks parking on there. I mean, I've been here 45 plus years, and a good 15, 20 years ago they put a pipe in, and then you still had cars and trucks parking on it. When Verizon was doing their work in the neighborhood, we had 1 to 3 of their bucket trucks parked on the sidewalk. If it was raining, you had 3. If they were working, you had 1 to 2 there. But that destroyed the sidewalk. And then they come around and dug and put that pipe in and put the big stones on top of it, but big trucks still park on it. The first offender was a city dump truck. He parked right on it. Then when the street sweeper wanted to empty, he pulled out, backed up his 2 hind wheels right on the thing and destroyed the pipe. Then when they were doing work up on Mount Pleasant, you had a steamroller and other heavy equipment parked right on top of it. So that's not addressing it's a Band-Aid, and it's not addressing the issue of water coming off the reservoir. They need to do something a little bit better than that.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, at this point in time, I'll turn it over to the board members for their questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure, Mr. Fischett.
and if, Mr. O'Hara, if you could actually, obviously it's 17 lots, it's a big site, but the topography of the site is extremely challenging, right? So, and I was looking at the, kind of the topo map here where you have existing elevations and changes, and then what we're looking at here. So can you give us a little idea of what the finished grade of those sites are going to look like? Because I happened to be out there on Saturday, matter of fact, a gentleman doing the site work gave me a little idea where, the lots on Christian Street, they're going to push back to have much of a backyard, and then kind of have a retaining wall with the boulders that are back there. So I just want to have an idea what we're looking at as a finished development. What are how are these lots going to lay out from a topography perspective?
Is it okay if you come up? Yeah, so the challenge in the site is the grades, is the slope. reservoirs up in this area. The highest point in the site is this top corner. Elevation's around 210 feet above sea level. The lowest point's the opposite corner. You're down around 96 feet. So you got about 110, 115 feet of slope change. And the distance from one corner to the other is just over 1,000 feet. So a little over 100 feet over a little over 1,000, you're at a 10% slope. Velocity to be 6% slope or flatter for 9,000 square feet. And then you try to make up the difference, by terracing these sites. What I failed to mention was that even though there's no new roads being proposed here, we are increasing the amount of impervious surfaces, no doubt. There's going to be 17 new roofs, 17 new driveways, but each one of the houses, the roof runoff is considered clean. So we have a 500-gallon dry well in the front of each one of the lots for the roof runoff. When you're dealing with roofs, the design storm you typically design to would be a very intense thunderstorm. The thunderstorm we had, or the rainstorm we had the other day, was pretty intense. I got a weather station on my house. I recorded over half an inch of rain in 20 minutes. But what we designed to is more than double that. We designed to 1 inch in 10 minutes. So 4 times the intensity of that. And we designed for that type of a storm, a very intense thunderstorm, because that's when you're going to get a surge from a small site like this, from a roof. Typically, when you design in whole neighborhoods, we design what's called a Type 3 rainfall distribution, which is over a 24-hour period. So it's a hurricane that drops about 8.5 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. But that's because you're dealing with much bigger sites. So the peak, it'd be like the Merrimack River. The Merrimack River floods. Sometimes it's days after a thunderstorm, after a hurricane that's hit the White Mountains. It takes days to come down. So we designed each one of these lots to have a 500-gallon infiltration chamber for the roof. And then the
Can I just
driveways.
interrupt for a second? So is that what's on sheet number 5, right? Is that the design of the,
Yes.
just to make sure that, yep.
And that's just a standard that we do. It's part of the city's MS4 program. So the city's really under a directive by the EPA to separate their stormwater from their wastewater. And this is one of the few sites that I've actually worked on where they have a separated sewer and water system, sewer and stormwater system. So on Christian Street, there's an existing sewer that's been there for well over 100 years. I believe it's a 12-inch line. And then they have a separated drainage system, and they did add another catch basin. So we're fortunate that we have that separation right there. We're also immediately adjacent to the Merrimack River. So typically we have to detain stormwater runoff. With this being an A&R, with no new roads, it's a little bit looser with the regulations. We don't have to design the entire site because the roads exist. But when we met with stormwater, with the stormwater division, they had mentioned that they had done some work out there. And I said my thoughts were, not knowing that they had done that work, was to put in some sort of an interceptor drain, because despite it being right next to the Merrimack River, the soils are not sandy material. And that's why you're getting surface runoff coming off those, off the site. I think it's a Canton and a Paxton fine sandy loam. So, and nothing really surprises me. There's an awful lot of boulders out there. This was not prime farmland. If it was, it would have been farmed. It was an apple orchard. Who knows? Maybe they raised sheep and goats out there, but it's really stony. They're piling up the stones now to build retaining walls with them. But anyhow, I kind of get carried away because I just wanted to let the abutters know that we did look into the soils out there, and we did look into it, and there are stormwater devices that have been put in place.
To what you said, though, because you said you met with, because I'll tell you one of the difficult things. We have, I'm sure you have a copy of the letter from DPD, from all the departments. In the city's engineering department, there's no comments.
Yeah.
On a site like this, and you've met, and for us to sit here for subdivision approval and not to have any comments from the city engineering department, I find we're trying to work with one arm tied behind our back. I'm disappointed with that. So if you could tell me a little bit about the meeting you had, and I missed it, perhaps, again, we're not getting full-size plans, in this day and age, we print what gets emailed to us or what's online. But did you put in the plan additional catch basins?
These are twice the size. I don't know if that would help.
So are there in the plans additional catch basins on Christian Street?
So,
'Cause you said you added them.
well, I added some information. It's not shown on this plan, but it's shown on the revised existing conditions plan. The catch basins, we located most of them, but it's unique in this area where they have the catch basins set back off the curbing. So they have like a little inlet. So, and a lot of them, unfortunately, were filled with leaves and debris and everything. And you drive down the street and it's overgrown. And we missed a couple of them. The city missed a couple of them too. They didn't show. We missed two and they missed one. So I got a phone call from Gordon over at Wastewater. He said, "Mark, can you locate? We know there's more catch basins out there because we had them install some." So I went out there, located those catch basins. And the catch basins, they also, part of the work that they did, I don't know what it was, maybe 5 years ago when they did the stormwater improvements out there? Longer than that? Okay, yeah. I don't know how long it was, but... Oh, okay, so... Oh, okay, yeah. So I thought there was something more recent, though, no? There wasn't something just in the past couple of years? Okay, yeah. Yeah, they added a catch basin. They repaired it. Okay, okay. All I saw was to me, it looked like a new catch basin, so they probably removed one and put it in there. Yeah. So in any case, we've taken that. Like I said, I'm familiar with the site because I drove up and down this road for 15 years, dropped my kids off at school, and I would come down either Christian. I never really went down Lowell or the next one down. I think it's Mount Pleasant that goes into Bradley or something or other. But like I said, each one of the roofs, 500-gallon tank for the runoff for the roof, and then the driveways. When they graded this road out, it's 50. Is it 50 feet public? 50-foot wide right-of-way, so it's 30 feet wide pavement. Actually, it says 28 and 50 feet. So when they built that road, they actually graded the whole thing out. So, which was good. But then that meant that the site was really steep. So the challenge, and the builder, I told him, you're gonna have to do a lot of grading out here in order to meet the slope requirements. But by installing these infiltration trenches, it's perforated PVC, 8-inch, it's down a few feet into the ground. What it essentially does is it effectively lowers the water table. But like I said, these are not like ideal sandy soils. They've got a lot of fines in them, and that's why that's why I'm not surprised that the people who live up there have water in their basement, because it does not drain right through. You have a relatively high water table. But that is some of the things that when I met with the city, I said, I'm familiar with the site. I know you guys get phone calls out there. What have you done? And they said, we've actually done some improvements out there, but we want you to continue with the improvements that we've done up here and you do down here. So that's how we went forward with this.
All right. So we get no comment from them that this took place and what they're recommending, and you've agreed to do it, but we don't see anything on here. I'm disappointed that we don't have anything on this. And then, could you give us some insight into Llewellyn Street then? It looks like you're gonna have quite the retaining wall on the back of those lots.
Initially, we were looking at putting in a lot of walls. Walls are expensive. So I was able to grade it out, meeting the slope requirements of these lots. And then we're essentially taking the material you've seen down here, and we're bringing it up the site and backfilling these lots and behind these lots. And then when you get to meeting the minimum 9,000 square feet,
Yeah.
we go with a 2-to-1 slope, which is a stable slope for these types of soils. So we can do most of it without retaining walls. It's still going to be steep. It's, like I said, 10% slope going from here
Yeah.
to here, and now you got a 2-to-1 slope, so, but we have to meet the city's requirements for terracing these
And then what's
lots.
happening in the middle? So then because then now you've got a steep slope coming back, and then you're basically gonna, it's not a plateau, because it's still sloping down.
Yep.
But obviously, it's not as steep in the middle, so
Right.
what's going on there? Is there any kind of a drainage system in there to account for that?
That was what my thoughts were initially, that would put some sort of an infiltration type of intercepted drain going along the rear of the property lines. These houses up here, they're not going to have drainage issues because everything slopes from their front yard to their backyard. These people over here, in order to meet these slope requirements, we have to cut into that hill. And when we cut into the hill, we're effectively, or essentially, lowering the water table, because the water, like when they started cutting over here, the water just started weeping out. And what we're doing is, these houses, behind each one of the houses, there's going to be like a curtain drain, a French drain, perimeter drain, that will also tie into the dry well chamber in the front. So we'll be intercepting the water in the back of these houses, and then we'll be directing that water along with the rooftop water to go into these 500-gallon chambers. And then these 500-gallon chambers will have an overflow pipe that goes into the other infiltration chamber system that's in front of the lots. So we believe this is going to be an improvement to the situation, because there's no stormwater controls out there right now. It's types hydrologic group C soils, which have got a very slow perk rate. They're not wetland soils, but they're just the next step up. A wetland soil will be like a hydrologic class D, but these are class C. And then you get B, and then you get A, which is like your beach sand. So I'm really not surprised by the experiences that they've had with sump pumps and, water in their basements. I think this is a drumlin. I'm not a geologist, but there's two different types of glacial till. There's one that's like the meltwater, that's just nice and stratified sands, and then you get the basal till. That's what this is. This is basal till. It's not homogeneous at all. It's just a mixture of everything.
I mean, I'm convinced we don't really know what's gonna happen, because you had a site that was full of vegetation. To your point, there was no stormwater mitigation on there, but there wasn't really any impervious surface on there either. So now we're changing the grades, we're adding some impervious surface, we're compensating for that, but with the grade changes, I'm just not quite sure what's gonna happen in that middle there. It's interesting.
Yeah, the middle is where there's going to be the least amount of disruption, because we're essentially taking what's kind of a consistent slope,
Yeah,
and we got to flatten it out by bringing in fill back here, but now you've got a steep slope going down.
Right.
Now you hit the existing grades, and now you got another cut going into the, so the water's essentially going to be kind of leaching out back here, but then where the houses are, you get those foundations that are going to have drains that are going to drain to the front of the house. But I can tell you this, based on my experience, these sites, the biggest challenge I have as an engineer is when you have sandy type of material and you're paving over that. That's when you run into problems, because the water is just going right into the ground. It doesn't matter how hard it rains, it's just being absorbed into the ground. And then you develop it and you create roads and driveways and impervious surfaces. That's where you can run into problems. That's where it makes it very difficult and challenging as an engineer when you design into those soils. When you have soils that really just don't percolate, that don't permeate, and I've witnessed it myself along with the abutters, the water actually, without even any development, it makes its way onto Christian Street.
right, it's not being absorbed. Did the engineering department have anything to say about the site and the area that I'm in question, or were they just talking about the road itself?
Their concern has always been about Christian Street and the drainage, and then the abutters, the actual, what I heard from the abutters was not so much about the drainage, it's about the speeding cars going up Christian Street.
Yeah, well, nobody spoke about that today, so.
Yeah.
And then, under the subdivision approval, it does talk about street trees. So, I know we're not laying down new roads, but, we're looking, so, under page 22, under, and it's paragraph titled Street Trees, right? So, we took an awful lot of vegetation down from there. We've got the reservoir was mentioned, that's gonna be clear cut when that finally happens up there. And so part of subdivision approval, though, and part of that plan is to take into account street trees. I really think this site warrants that, and I would be looking for a plan that would incorporate street trees along the entire development, Christian Street and Reservoir and Llewellyn. I think that we have an opportunity here. The site was heavily vegetated and over, and I think rather than clearing it and just have all the homes on there, I think with the street trees, you can really redefine that neighborhood in a way that I think would help to benefit the general streetscape as you're going up Christian Street, coming down from the reservoir as well. And we've actually tried to account for, when we approve that, the street trees for the reservoir, that is to try to maintain some of the street, replant some of the trees along Christian Street. So I really would look for that to be incorporated into the plan. I want some comments from our city's engineering department. We're asked to make a decision on a site that's got some serious water issues, and I'm great that you met with them and they talked about drainage from the street. I have nothing official on that, zero. Their comments on us on this sheet was no comments. So to me, that's a concern making a decision here this evening. So I'm gonna defer to my colleagues, but I think we owe it to anybody that's buying that home, the homes there in the existing neighborhood, make sure that we've accounted for drainage. And I think it's an opportunity from a streetscape perspective to really enhance the neighborhood with street trees on this.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go right ahead.
If you look on Google Earth, because even though I've driven up and down this, I thought it was more heavily wooded than it actually was. Being an apple orchard, you can go on Google Earth and go back in time and see that this really wasn't heavily wooded. The perimeter of it was, and they had the orchard trees. I don't know when the last.
So street trees will be on the perimeter.
But yeah, and I spoke to the applicant. He has no problem with putting street trees up. He'd like to sell these houses,
Sure.
and it's going to dress up his lots. And
then to the comments that were made, and I agree. I don't think selling this as affordable housing probably was not the proper way to present this to the board. But what I will say is, I'm pro-housing at all levels, right? So you got to turn the dial. We can't just put the accelerator on affordable housing. You can't just have all McMansions, right? And you can't, so it's got to be a balance. And certainly, I think there could be a benefit to the neighborhood, obviously, having these homes in here. I wouldn't sell it as anything but that. That's what they're market rate homes, quality homes. My understanding is that they're going to try to build some smaller version of what's going up there right now, up higher. But it's not a bad thing to have some market rate homes. It helps the neighborhood, it helps the city. So from that perspective, I don't think that's a negative.
it's almost like their hands are tied. They spent a lot of money for the land.
Sure.
It's a beautiful part of town, and they're going to put housing that they believe they can sell, and it just is what it is. The city could say, hey, let's look at, the state wants to put in 15 units per acre MBTA zoning. This isn't the place for it.
Right,
you know, with
right.
the
No, it meets
lots,
the
so-
zoning, to the point of it,
Yeah.
it meets the zoning, it meets the lot sizes, it meets the frontage, although I will say, did you send revised plans that list the frontage on the lots? Because
So we weren't going to reinvent the wheel. This plan is on record already. Meisner Brem did the original plan. They didn't think it required planning board approval. Somehow it slipped through the cracks. So that plan is still on record. So all of these lots are the same dimensions as what they were showing in that plan. Every lot has at least 90 feet of frontage. Some of them are up around 100. So it's between 90.
Well, I think we're not going to approve a plan that doesn't have the lot frontage listed on it.
Yeah, and I didn't, so what I did was, with these plans, I produced the additional information that you produce for a subdivision review, but the plan itself is already recorded, it's on record, it's at the registry of deeds, it exists as an A&R, it's a subdivision plan that exists. So I included it, that recorded plan signed off at the registry of deeds with this application set. So nothing's changed, I'm saying. We basically took the plan on record and just produced a set of plans that show grading, utilities, and typical stuff that we show for a subdivision approval.
So I'm assuming you're in receipt of the letter from DPD dated July 14th, says proposed conditions, the applicant shall revise the definitive subdivision plan to include the frontage of each lot?
Yeah, you know what I'll do is, because we went essentially back and took this lot and made it a 3-lot A&R plan, we'll just include the new A&R plan as part of this that has the 17 lots.
That has the frontage listed on it?
That has all those dimensions on them.
All right,
Yep.
that's what I would expect come back before us.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Caleb, any questions, comments?
I think Mr. Fischett covers a lot of the concerns I have. So just wanted to clarify, in the middle where, between the steep grade changes, is it going to be just seed and loam, or, what's the plan for that?
There is really no plan than to allow it to go natural. It'll eventually become wooded. You got steep slopes on both sides. I don't think people, even though they're going to own the land, I doubt they're going to do anything with it, because it's going to be a nice landscaped area, lawn, steep slope, natural.
Okay. So eventually
just become wooded.
Reclaimed by the
Reclaimed,
nature,
yep,
right?
nature will
Okay.
take it back.
And you mentioned, and then I have another maybe question or clarification for the streets on Christian Street. Like, now you mentioned about, the water will seep out from the slope naturally, and you're going to have like a perimeter around the house. Would there be any concern about waterlogged backyard? I mean, those will be very wet backyards.
I mean, let's put it this way. Some of the soils there were very close to supporting wetland type of vegetation. Okay, we're not here before, and it's not a wetland, but it's close to being a wetland. Water does come out of the ground, but I think with the improvements that we're doing with the foundations, essentially trying to drain the water table, in certain areas by cutting, I don't think these are going to be lawns, and I've seen lawns be flagged as wetlands at times. And I think that even though there is going to be high water table in certain areas, I don't think it's going to be wet enough to turn it into a wetland. So it would just be, a lawn that would probably grow really well because it's got ample water supply.
Okay. But would there be any consideration to have the French drain first?
No, I'm more concerned about surface runoff, sheet flow runoff making its way out into the street, because that's actually what we've seen in the past. And so trying to address that concern.
Okay.
But like I said, in between the lots is going to be natural. And I really don't think we're going to be increasing any sheet flow runoff, because we're taking that into account with stormwater controls by taking the rooftop runoff, putting it into the ground, and then the driveways, grading them so that the water that's on Christian Street stays on Christian Street. So you'll have like the gutter of the road, the curbing, a little hump, and then it comes back down, and then it goes back up to the driveways. So what comes off the driveways goes into those under drain areas that we're tying into the drainage system, so that the water will eventually just make its way through that infiltration trench and into a catch basin.
I see. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Now, I just noticed on site that there's a lot of like the straw bales for erosion controls. Now, are the site now stabilized, or you have? I don't think all the cuts are done yet, right?
No, it's they're gonna build 3 houses at a time.
Okay.
So it's gonna be kind of phased. Build the 3 houses, sell the 3 houses, move on to the next 3. But we do have to take the material from down below and bring it up above. So there's gonna be that traffic. But what they've done is they've left the very front of the lots up high so that everything is contained in like a bowl now. So when it does rain, there is 2 rows of hay bales going all the way down the street. And as far as I've seen, except for a little bit of dirt from one of the construction entrances, they've been very good at keeping all of the stormwater runoff on site, none of it coming off site.
Got it.
And that will be the program moving forward as part of their NIPD's EPA permit.
Are there any drawings or anything that's the city knows that program, or is more like it's an internal program that you guys take care of?
It's part of the city has its own program, part of the MS4, where they have to go out and actually take care of all their public catch basins and detention basins and whatnot. But each site that's got development over an acre has to apply for an NPDES permit, which the applicant has applied for, and that's handled through the EPA.
So, but if, say, there's some shortcomings of the program, like concerned neighbors could
I can
submit a
tell you what
complaint,
happens.
right?
I can tell you what happens from experiences. The neighbors call the city, and then the city calls me, and then I call the developer, and I'll usually meet out with the developer on site, and I've made him fully aware that, listen, this is somewhat of a controversial site. I know I've seen it in the Lowell Sun before. I've been familiar with the property. I'm surprised it wasn't built 50 years ago. But it's on the market now, and it's a project that's moving forward, and I'm sure the city's going to get phone calls from abutters as soon as there's a little bit of dust that comes off the site. We're going to hear about it.
Okay. So this program will continue as like each house come online, and then with the dry well all connected, and so eventually they will replace the straw bales, right?
Yes, there is a it's part of the NIPD's program to do inspections anytime. I think it's a half-inch, like what we had yesterday. Half-inch runoff for every 2 weeks, they got to do an inspection of the site. But I made them very, very aware. I said, listen, keep a clean site. Do not let any stormwater runoff, silt come off that site. Keep it clean. And so he said, what do? I said, run double row, not just single row, double row of hay bales around the whole perimeter of where you're going to be doing work.
Well, thank you. A question on the dry well. So the dry well is sized so that it meets the MS4 requirement, right? In my understanding. And how do you? And also one follow-up on that one is that how do you define like the initial situation now? I mean, I know there were trees, but then what does it compare before and after? What's the before?
So what's happened recently is that we've got 3 different levels of regulations. You've got like towns like Drake. Lowell was actually first. The biggest cities had to have their program in place, and then it went to the smaller towns. And so each city and town has its own stormwater policy. So you've got those local regulations. Then you get stuff at the city and the state level with DEP, and then you get stuff at the national level with the EPA and the Merrimack River and meeting those separation requirements. But they're all a little bit different. So it's like, okay, one wants you to use this design storm, one wants you to use this other method. EPA might be looking at their own methods, and DEP is trying to pull it all together so that now we have like one set of regulations. and eventually it'll be there in a couple of years. It's not there yet, so it's almost like an informal policy. I'm dealing with a lot of the local towns and city where, because it's gotten much smaller and localized, I'm talking about ADU units with the new driveway have to meet Town of Drake's stormwater policy. And I said, in order to do that, I have to produce a report that's going to be a couple hundred pages for a single, like a 900 square foot house. So they said, we're going to simplify it. We understand it's just a small little, glorified, I don't know, shed. So we're designing the 1 inch of runoff times the total impervious area. And so that's how we're handling it. And that's why I said, because they're small, you tend to get the stormwater controls tend to be designed instead of a hurricane 24-hour event. It's a 10-minute severe thunderstorm. And so that's what we're designing these 500-gallon dry wells for.
And you're saying that it's in compliance with that informal policy that the EP.
The city is like, okay, the city's biggest concern really is trying to keep the Merrimack River clean and reducing the amount of combined sewer overflows. Every time we get a heavy rain, they essentially have to open up the gates and it goes right into the Merrimack. The EPA is really cracking down hard on them. So they're having us do the 1 inch rule, or in some cases, the 1.5 inch rule. It may be written somewhere, but that's the way we've been designing for the past few years, and that's what we've been doing. And other cities and towns, like Drake, it has applied that same 1 inch rule.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's a lot of information, but thank you for your answers. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Caleb. Annie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I was reviewing this, I came up with more questions, and thankfully, Member Frechette, Vice Chair Frechette, gave me a copy of the subdivision regulations, and I was looking through those when I was looking at this plan. I went up to the site, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a big drop. It's a really big drop. And so I just wrote some quick notes. What do I like and what do I dislike? I'm trying to make sure I include what I like. I like the idea of potentially using this property for homes. I would agree with Member Frechette. We need a wide variety of both low-income, mid-range, and high-income houses. We need the range. For a city to survive, you can't just have all high income, or you can't just have all low income. So I would agree with that. So I do like the idea. What I hated were the plans. Absolutely hated them. What I hated about them is I couldn't tell what the hell was going on, other than I'm putting a house here, and these are the elevations. So, and once again, this is the first subdivision I've seen, much like what you described earlier, is there aren't any subdivisions going on in Lowell anymore. So this was the first one I saw, and I guess I'm confused. When I saw it, I was looking for, okay, there's going to be this huge drop. Where are the retaining walls going? Where are the trenches? Where are the something to hold back the material from sliding down the hill? I was looking for something in the plans that would indicate that. I was also looking for, according to the subdivision rules, they indicate we're supposed to have proposed drainage and drainage calculations. You mentioned dry wells. I don't know whether it's my eyesight, maybe like yourself, but I couldn't figure out where the drainage was on these plans. You mentioned that there's a dry well on each lot. That sounds like it helps by what you've said. But I would want to see what the calculations are, and to Member Frechette's point, is those calculations should be gone over by water, wastewater engineering, and them giving us information saying, yes, those do comply and those will eliminate some of the runoff issues that we heard from almost all of the people that spoke. They were talking about runoff and runoff and the clearing of trees. When I went there, I also checked Google ahead of time, like yourself. I just noticed that it was all covered. You couldn't tell what, you could tell what were bigger trees, but other than that, you couldn't tell. But the whole property was covered at that time, and I would want to see part of this plan, one, what did Member Frechette said, street trees. I would want to see additional trees. There were a lot of trees taken off this lot. Somebody mentioned that they absorb a ton of water, which can only help in this area. I would also like to see what sort of landscaping. There are shrubs, ground control, soil erosion measures. All I can see is that we're approving this and this thing slides down Christian Hill. And obviously, none of us want that, including the developer. So what I would want to see on the plan would be not only street trees, but what additional trees are going to be on these plans. Once again, the proposed drainage and drain calculations, just bear with me, I'm looking at my notes. It indicates that it must contain surface water systems, and once again, I don't know if it was just so tiny on these plans that they're there, but it would be helpful if they were there. One of the things the subdivision rules indicate that we're supposed to be protecting the natural resources, including the trees. So when I came down to it, I guess I had a couple of questions based on your presentation and Member Frechette's comments and the board's comments is we should have a plan that actually projects the project that we're approving. The dry wells, the street trees, any terracing. You also mentioned infiltration trenches. I don't know what those are. Would love to know.
Yeah, you know what? This is a very unique project. I've never done one of these before, in a sense that you've got approval not required plan that's been approved, and the requirements for approval are not required are essentially no requirements because the roads exist. They're not illusory frontage. It's actual frontage on an actual road, and you can just go buy the lot and build a house. That's approval not required. Subdivision approval is completely different. You're typically building new roads, new drainage systems, detention basins, and so forth. So you look at the requirements for a definitive subdivision, it's a whole stormwater report, hundreds of pages. I've done them, like I said, the first subdivision I did was Fowler Road Extension 30 years ago, and since then I've probably done about 25 other residential subdivisions. This is the first time I did do a 4-lot A&R in Dracut a few months ago, but a 17-lot, essentially, A&R plan in Lowell. It was approved, they were ready to go build, and then they said, hold on, approval not required, requires approval in Lowell. So it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, and
how does approval not required require approval?
And I definitely hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, but as the responsible board, we're looking at it like the biggest problem on this thing is water runoff. All right, and so we want to know what the calculations are. Well, I do, and I'm sure the board members do. I want to know what an infiltration trench is. I don't know whether that's helpful or not helpful. I don't even know what it does.
Yeah. So, like I said, so for A&R, there's no requirements for any stormwater controls or anything because the roads already exist and it was considered approval. You don't have to get approval from the planning board because it's granted because by right. But because there's that clause that I was not involved with this project at all, I just got a phone call saying, can you help me out? I said, I'll do my best. I'll see what I can do. I did not design the subdivision, but I've got limitations on what I can do because it's already been approved and it's on record at the Registry of Deeds. So,
and just so you know, we have limitations on what we can do and what we can approve.
Yes.
All right, and so realistically, I want to know what an infiltration trench is. You mentioned it. I didn't. I don't even know what it is.
Infiltration, well, we use chambers in this one, a 500-gallon dry well that's coming. So we're taking everybody agrees that rooftop runoff from a non-metal roof is considered clean. Let's put it back into the ground. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is a unique situation where all of a sudden the city said you have to get approval, but we've already granted approval, but it's kind of like a catch-22. So I said, I'm going to do whatever I can do. I'm very familiar with the site, familiar with the soils. I know the challenges that the abutters are facing. Stormwater is one of them, speeding cars is the other one. So let's do something. Let's be proactive, meet with the city, say, what have you guys faced? We've had issues. We installed an infiltration trench that they did on their own. And I said, that's amazing, because I was going to come up with that as being a possible solution to the situation out there. So let me borrow your detail of what you have, and I revised the plans and updated them so that we're consistent with what the city has been doing on its own.
Okay, so the infiltration trenches, where are they located on this plan?
They are in the right of way, and they were just added because I just got the information from the city itself. So I was just provided that information about a week ago.
So they're not here?
No, they're on the plans that are shown.
We got these plans about 3 weeks ago, so if it was a week ago,
okay,
we haven't seen them.
my apologies. So you have the original plans that don't show the infiltration. This what I have, this poster does show where they are, but it's
It doesn't matter at this point.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So, and I apologize, but the information that I just got from the city, we just were out there locating the additional catch basins and the work that had been done by the city. So that information is on the current set of plans. I don't know what you have in front of you.
Okay, so once again, we're going to want up-to-date plans, and you mentioned that this is tough soil, as you mentioned. It produces runoff just by its nature.
Yep.
So you also mentioned you're trying to do this without retaining walls.
Yes.
Okay, what are we using to keep the dirt back?
Just a natural 2-to-1 slope. That it's a 2-to-1 slope is much steeper than a 10% slope, which is what exists there right now. So I know it sounds steep, 2-to-1 slope, and it is steep, but that's the way it's shown, is graded out. We're able to grade it out without putting in a whole bunch of retaining walls. That was our original plan, was going to show retaining walls.
So if you're not doing retaining walls,
Yep.
I want to see what you're doing for erosion control. And on the plan, we need to see something that's going to be saying, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And I think, to Member Frichette's point, is we're going to want to have some feedback from the engineering department as far as, and DPD regarding trees, grasses, shrubs, anything to be used regarding erosion control. Because once again, all I see is a project sliding down the hill, and none of us want that.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely don't want that either. But I've been involved with some, or I've heard stories about. I haven't been involved. There was one in a worker at Chelmsford, Route 4, slid down the hill. These soils, like I was saying, these soils structurally are more sound than a very sandy type of soil, which you'd have more concerns with the whole thing just kind of cutting away and the whole thing sliding down. It's the nature of these soils. I'm less concerned about it than if it was a really sandy material.
Just following up on, you guys were talking about catch basins earlier. Are you guys putting in new catch basins or not?
We're not putting in any new roads, no catch basins, nothing. We will be extending those infiltration drains into the existing catch basins with the same type of program that the city had been doing.
Okay, and so that'll be on the new plan. The trees will be on the new plan. The erosion control will be on the new plan. The frontage, good point, the frontage will be on.
Okay, yeah. And my apologies. This was like a unique situation I've never been in, where it was.
Yeah, you got it dropped in your lap.
It was, yeah, it was like.
Yeah, I get it.
Let's try to work with this.
I just want to be clear
Yeah.
as what we're looking for, that's all.
Okay, yep. And as for trees,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
What we've been going with, I have a list of trees that are native New England. The city of Lowell is actually in a program. The state has certain areas of the city that they will actually come put the trees in for you. The applicant has no problem putting street trees that are in harmony with, native trees in this area.
Yeah, I would actually want to see more, just so you know.
Yep.
Because that place was totally wooded, you
Yeah.
know, so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Lucia, any questions, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many of my questions and concerns have already been addressed by Member Frechette as well as Member Chang and Tenza. I was curious, though, Mr. O'Hara spoke a lot about the infiltration system. I just wanted some clarification. Is the infiltration system above and beyond what is required by your NIPD's and/or MS4 permit, or is it as required?
Yeah, this is, it's just, I've never been in this situation before where the plan was, they're ready to build, and then, because Lowell's the only city that I know of that requires approval for an approval not required plan. And I don't even think the people in the city knew about it until maybe the abutters picked up on it or somebody picked up on it. This builder was ready to I'm ready to go, I'm building, and the city said, oh, hold on one second, you gotta come back for this permit. Yeah, it's in the zoning code, but it's unique, but I've never seen that before in any other city or town. I wasn't involved with this project. I don't know anything about it. I was just, I took a phone call and I said, I know the site. I know it really well. I really don't want to get involved with a controversial site, but I'm very familiar with that site, so I'm willing. And he's a good developer. He's a reputable. He builds a high-quality house, and he's a good name. And these are going to be beautiful homes. And unfortunately, he purchased a subdivision. He thought it was turnkey and ready to go, and it wasn't. And I don't know, the attorneys never picked up on it. It was an oversight, so.
So, I'm sorry. So is the infiltration system just in conformity to conform with the requirements of the NIPD's and the MS4?
Yeah, so
or have you gone above and beyond to mitigate runoff?
Yeah, so with A&R, there's no requirements. If it was just A&R. With subdivision, there are requirements, but that falls under their subdivision policy. So I don't know from a legal perspective where this project actually lies. Is it an A&R or is it a subdivision? Because, this is like for an attorney to really determine. So subdivision control, we have to meet these requirements. A&R, you don't have any requirements, but we said we're going to go ahead and go with what would typically be required for just a single-family house, multiply that by 17, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chairman, just to kind of put in perspective, subdivision approval is the primary focus is safe ingress and egress to the homes that are going to be built in the subdivision area. So the strange situation we have here is that there are no streets being built to provide safe ingress and egress to the lots upon which residential buildings is going to be built because of the fact that it has frontage that already exists. This is just the unique scenario that's present that we're dealing with right now. So we're dealing with subdivision controls which are primarily focused on the build-out of the infrastructure and the roadways to provide access to the lots. In this case, it already exists. So what Mr. O'Hara is saying, really a lot of what we're talking about isn't technically required for an A&R, but because we're, coming before the board. But if you focus on, are the roads in place? Yes. Are they public roads? Yes. Are the utilities there? Yes. Everything's already there. So we're not getting approval for what is generally the main focus of subdivision approval. So in that case, but obviously, as Mr. O'Hara's been saying, we've been trying to work and doing, and certainly will continue to work with the city to provide as much information as necessary to address concerns, but that's the strange position that, Mr. O'Hara is talking about. Well, we're not building this street, so I'm not doing these calculations for the street. I'm not doing calculations for the utilities. I'm not doing calculations for new, ways into the property. But we're working with the city to deal with it. And just for the record also, I wasn't involved when the property was acquired, so
Both of you got it dropped in your laps.
So
Wow.
I'm putting that on the record, okay? But also, if I could just go back, the question to the initial introduction, in terms of the emphasis within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for housing, that includes market rate. It's not, increasing the housing stock in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is the main goal within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that includes market rate housing. So this is a perfect location for this type of development, which, if anyone got the impression I was inferring that this was going to be affordable housing, no, this is all part of the initiative that we've got to increase housing stock of all kinds, and it goes to the issue of affordability. And that is clearly the emphasis within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've got to allow housing stock to be increased, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Any further questions, Lucia? No? Tal, any questions?
Well, I just want to make some comment. I drove by that area for 18 years myself. I live on Beach Street a while back, and I know that the waters come down, the basement, and I know that. So I went this afternoon as well. Even though I've been there, lived through, drove by for many years, I see the challenge, and I see that all these questions about building 17 units, the slope, the hill, and water's issue. But I also understand that on one hand, our concern, our comment is that when people live there, we want them to be safe. We want them to be the water's not presenting more issue, because I know that currently the neighborhood encounter that issue, and so that's my comment.
Jefferson, any question, comment?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. So I know the difference between the A&R and a subdivision, but we're here for a subdivision, so we can put the A&R aside.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, we all know the A&R is that you have frontage on all the streets, and you have access, and you have the minimum lot, and you have all the setbacks. But obviously, the concern is the slope. And that does fall in the purview of the subdivision.
Yep.
So, if, I'm surprised that we didn't get anything from stormwater saying they were satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Would've raised our problems a lot easier. Same with engineering, So sometimes, as we've been told, when they put down, sometimes no comments received, that means to them, they don't have any comments at all, and not mean that they didn't look it over and have some comments, but they don't have because we wish they'd put in no concerns.
Yeah.
Which would make it easier for us, but they don't put that in on the comment. So obviously, I think, first thing everybody said, you look up there, the whole slope is going down, because all those streets are up high, and they all have a slope. I mean, anywhere by the reservoir, Christian, Welland, they're all running down. It's a high peak, there's no doubt about it. So,
I can tell you this, that, well, these streets have been there for over 100 years, most of them.
Yep.
These developments, these streets will not be allowed these days, they're too steep. But they're existing.
Yep.
And you get existing frontage. And like I said, I've never been in a situation before where it was an A&R plan, but it required subdivision approval, and I'm trying to help this guy out, and I'm like, I'll try to provide as much information as, we can. And the slopes have been as an engineer, my concern, as well as the drainage, because I'm familiar with the area.
I mean, the fact that you have the parking, which I like, you don't need any variances, because even like when I was up the site, I could tell where you're bringing the road, where you're bringing the dirt up, because you have basically a dirt road with the trucks there. You can see where they're bringing it up. You know, it's right in the middle of the lot.
It's not a simple flat lot.
No, it's not. I mean,
There's not much land left where
yeah.
you can build in.
I mean,
This just happens to be
like
one
I
of the
said,
areas.
if you drop the ball up there, you know where it's gonna land.
I'm a skier. I look at that, I'm like, I know which one I'd like to take.
So, yeah, I think some of the, the A&R, if they say we don't need it, you have to have it recorded, that's one thing, but we have, for the subdivision, so we have a right to, you know, raise the issue on the drainage and, also, the trees. So obviously, it sounds like some of the boards want to see some more information before we go, make a determination. And you said you were willing to give us more information on some of the plans, which I believe would be helpful. Caleb, you had another question, I'm sorry?
So, yeah, I think it's a odd situation with what the A&R does, but that's, you know, more legal. And I do want to hear from our stormwater team is, what do they think is the basis for this project? Which standards would they, you know, they require for you? I mean, whether it should be a full subdivision or they think AR and I'll have some beef or teeth, you know, and so that they're willing to compromise some. I do not know, but I think we ought to, even in that case, to do more than, you know, than sorry, because of the existing, you know, we know from the grade that waters come downhill. And if the stormwater team is unclear, I may suggest we can ask legal for some advice of what they should think about, what A&L means in this case. I don't know. Yeah, because it seems like nobody knows, and I wouldn't know either.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is, it's a subdivision before us, and we act on the subdivision.
Okay.
That's my legal opinion. What do you think of that thing, Mike? That's what's
I'm
before us.
with you. I understand what you're saying,
But it's a.
Member
the
Chang,
subdivision
but
in front of us.
realistically, we're treating it like a subdivision, and I think what we need is greater input from engineering, stormwater, and water.
Right.
We need to know, do the calculations make sense? Do they protect the neighborhood? And will the soil hold up, like you had mentioned, as far as how they're going to grade it and how they're going to control the soil from coming down?
Right.
So, and like I said, we're going to need to see that new plan outlining that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think if we get the new plan, or even the plans that were submitted that we didn't have a chance to look over, where the ones you gave us tonight does have frontage on them, which we've never saw until
Yeah, it was-
now. So I'm saying if we had the new plan, we could ask planning staff to reach out to, the water department engineering, say, you know, the planning board looked at this, and they saw the slope, when you went from corner to corner, you know, 10% slope, and you have to concern of the drainage, can they explain to us if they feel that's adequate, or just give us some type of letter saying, yeah, we're good with it, or these corrections should be made to help hold the water from the runoff, and as Dan said, have the whole project end down the street and into the Merrimack River, I guess.
And I was just, Mr. Chairman, again, I'm going to reiterate, what's before us is subdivision approval, period.
Yep.
I know it's very unique, and I think we can all say we probably never dealt with this, but it's
That's what's here.
subdivision, that's
Yep.
what's here. And I will tell you, up in New Hampshire, if you've dealt there, they have, it's subdivision, it's not A&R lots. And I had a project with 1,000-foot frontage on a road, and the town made them do some road improvements. They had them post a bond for driveway work on the individual lots. So, you know, Massachusetts is pretty good. You know, they don't have A&R up in New Hampshire like that. So again, it's before us for subdivision approval. Drainage is definitely within our purview. The street trees, I quoted the paragraph and the page. There's no doubt that's within our purview.
I mean, with regards to the trees, we could pull somebody in that, like a landscape architect, for the selection of trees. You want a separate plan for something like that?
Yes, I would like to see a
Okay.
separate plan.
Okay, yeah, I'll mention it then.
In time for DPD to review and provide comments to us.
Yeah.
Now, I know you mentioned it before, But in the middle there, you think that 2-to-1 slope would be fine with just going up, or do you thought would there some type of vegetation be put in there to help that?
If this was a very sandy soil, I'd go to 3-to-1 slope, but it's got some structural integrity to it, so a 2-to-1 slope is an engineering standard.
Okay.
For a slope, so initially, like I said, I designed this with a lot of retaining walls, and I said they're gonna be
Because
costly.
if you do the new plan and you speak with stormwater, mention how you're doing that, and maybe stormwater will give us a comment that say, yeah, we're fine with the 2-to-1, but that thing is gonna grow up, and,
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
That gives us a little more assurance that it's
Yep.
gonna hold, I
Okay.
guess. You know, them say, the board had a question on this, they were like, should we, you know, because everybody talks about how much water the trees suck up, so do we need to put any shrubs or anything else in there just to help the runoff? I mean, you know, the drainage, so it sucks in some of that water?
Yeah, lots of trees will help this site.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, we're gonna have to come back to the new plan, we should look at a new date, maybe for continuance?
Mr. Chairman, could I just make
Sure.
sure that, do a checklist here? So far from my notes, I asked Mr. O'Hara to make certain that we're talking about some plan to address the erosion control issues that's brought up by the board. In addition to Mr.Fichette's specific references, street trees, plan also regarding, in general on the plan, trees, grass, and shrubs. Frontage of all the lots on the plan to be submitted, or I think it's already been submitted, but, yeah.
Yeah. Right, okay.
And then some submittal that would be more specific and identify the infiltration trench or
Sure,
the
yeah.
connection to the infiltration trench. And also with that, we could also give the specifics relative to the dry well, the 500-gallon.
Right.
So I'll have a standard kind of typical dry well. These houses, he's probably going to go a little bit small with them, but he would like to have the flexibility to be able to adapt to what the market is at with these houses. So I show a typical house, but we usually don't get to the level of detail of exactly what he's going to be building.
Right.
So if we could have that flexibility with the planning board, that would be great. And what I can do is,
Yeah, I mean, you know, as long as you're meeting the side yards and setbacks and all that.
Yep. Oh, each one of these is going to meet all of.
That's what I mean, 'cause like, you're not asking any variances, you have all your setbacks.
Yep.
Which is, yeah,
We have to.
which is great.
He's going to need a certified plot plan for every foundation he pours before he can get a building permit showing that it meets all the setback requirements.
Right. Okay,
So the infiltration trenches would exist. What I can do is show it in a profile view. So you'll have a plan view, street, profile, everything that's consistent with what we're
Sure.
proposing. So I think that'll make it easier to see and understand.
yeah,
And then just some generalized details of these infiltration chambers and how they were sized.
okay. That sounds good. Yes, could you say enough so we can see it, please? Thank you.
I had one other question as you were talking about the slope of the land behind the houses. One of my concerns is the house that exists right now, that is south of the lot 17. There's got to be an embankment there. It's got to be 10-foot cliff. And a couple of the drawings doesn't show that. And I don't know how there's going to be any kind of a slope there without some kind of a retaining wall. Just a thought, just a thought.
Okay. So the question would be, how long would it take you to get those plans to us? And they'd have to be reviewed by all the city departments? And what do we have available for our next agenda date? Are we still looking at that September date, or are we past that? Huh? Yeah. Fran, how far out are we looking if we come back for September 4th on this?
What was the question?
If we continue to September 4th, what else we have on
What
there?
else do you have?
I mean, we just put the
check.
tree hearing on, but I know we had 2 or 3 other matters on that date? At least 2 or 3.
Yes. The 4th has 3 items.
3 items? In the tree hearing that we just continued as well? Which we continued earlier
Yes,
this evening?
so 4 total already. And then the 18th of September,
No, we're talking, she looked at September 4th,
yeah.
or, yeah, or,
And then September 18th, there are 2 items, a pre-application and
Okay.
a full application.
so, should we go on to September 18th? That give you plenty of time to get all your drawings up and submit them to the planning staff?
Yeah, the actual work that you need from me is not that significant because we've actually been doing a lot of that on a separate A&R, so I can have that. That's the biggest issue for me. But I think it'd be proper to meet with engineering or have another kind of departmental
Yeah.
chat based on
Sure.
what we've received from you and from the abutters. And just a little,
Yeah.
powwow to put our brains
And then when you meet
together.
with them, they say the board, they said they didn't see any notes from you, they're concerned with the slope, and just say, these are the issues
Yeah.
that the board brought up, so
Yep.
they can address those in a letter to us.
I think, I've gotten what I think your concerns
Yeah.
are, and,
I think they're pretty simple. We narrowed it down to slope and
Yep.
drainage.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either one, the 4th or whatever it was, 17th?
The 18th?
18th?
Yeah, okay, when we go with the 18th, that way, we won't have 5 matters on that night, which, okay,
And then, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, we're going to get a full set of plans that'll have a new topo map.
I have essentially all of the information. It's a matter of me using AutoCAD to display it. I will have to create, like I said, I want to create the profile of what exists on Christian Street. I think Christian Street, for all intents and purposes, is the main concern because everything flows from Llewellyn and from Reservoir down Christian. So, and that's always been my focus. Nothing from the driveways or from the site is going to go up into Llewellyn or Reservoir. It's all coming down to Christian. And,
So back to my question, you'll include a topo map that'll.
yep. So the contours and everything, I was able to generate these both from on-site survey,
Yep.
but also through NOAA. NOAA has got a great website. They flowed this all with LiDAR. It is incredibly detailed and accurate. So I pulled a lot of information from the
All
NOAA
Good, thank you.
website.
I'll make a motion that we continue the matter till September 18th.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries, and the matter will be continued to that date. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Plunkett, appreciate it, Tony. Thank you, people, for coming down and your input, thank you very much. Okay. So moving along on the agenda, we have a zoning amendment, 1190 Pawtucket Boulevard. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the planning board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290, therefore entitled Lowell Zoning Code, by extending the existing suburban mixed-use zoning district to include the entirety of 1190 Pawtucket Boulevard and Lowell, which is presently zoned suburban single-family.
Yes, so I can provide some context. This is a lot that's owned by the city, and there is an interest by the administration and the councilors to develop the lot. It's not clear what it would be, what the proposed use would be, or it's not certain, but given that it's currently zoned suburban single-family, it is limited to just single-family homes. And by extending the existing suburban mixed-use zoning district, it significantly expands the development potential of the parcel. One thing to note is that it is in the 100-year floodplain, which does limit the development potential of the site, and DPD is aware of that, but we've been asked to put this rezone forward for the board's consideration to expand the possibilities for redevelopment on this parcel.
Okay. Anybody here this evening like to speak in favor of the zone change? Anybody in favor of the zone change? In favor, in favor, in favor? Hearing none. Anybody in opposition to the zone change? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. Any of the board members have any questions or comments?
Just, Fran, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Question, do you know, and I went to the boat ramp and I was looking at the maps, but do you know, does it actually abut the property where the boat ramp is? It's in the vicinity of that, right? I was just trying to figure out from a proximity.
I'm not sure, I would have to
What was
look.
the name of it? The Rock Brother boat area or something?
Yeah, it was actually named after, no, it was actually named after Tom Golden's, that
Yeah.
boat ramp.
I could look if you just give me a moment.
Right next to it.
Grandfather, but, yeah, I was just curious, because it's in that vicinity, and I know that's why the thought of a boathouse, or, actually, I just went online, too, there was a letter from Yvonne to the city manager and the council back in March, actually, it was a response to, I think, Councilor Vesna Noon's motion, but it just talked about some possibilities of development on the site, so, certainly, the city's trying to take properties that they own and trying to put them back on put them on the tax rolls and maximize the use. And I don't see that being zoned single-family as something that's, it being in a 100-year floodplain. You can build it to the standards you can build, but it probably wouldn't be something that people would be looking to purchase. So, yeah, I just curious if we knew, because again, you could complement the boat ramp as well, and it really could be something spectacular if it's done the right way. So, my understanding, the city's going to put out an RFP, and see what comes back. Is that?
That is my understanding,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any comments? Dan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you to Ms. Sigliano. When I looked at the picture, and then I looked at the City of Lowell zoning map, or the assessors map, it looks like a lot of the property along that river is owned by the city. And so I guess my question is why just this lot? Why not rezone the entire strip? It looks like strips on both sides. It looks like a set of wings. And I was looking at it like, why just do this little parcel? Why not do that for the whole strip, is what I was thinking. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure why just this parcel. We are funded to start our comprehensive zoning review and rewrite, and that is moving forward within the next couple of weeks, so that's something that we could definitely look into. I know that activating the riverfront and taking advantage of our riverfront land is something that is of interest to the city, so it's certainly something we could explore during the rewrite.
Because of what I learned from doing this, working on the state level, I know one limitation will be Article 97 land, which are protected for recreation. So if this is one parcel, I have a map, but this is one parcel that does not have that protection. If you need to remove that protection, someone have to sponsor a bill in the State House to approve taking out for protection.
So the other strips of land are protected? They're protected somehow
You can go
by
on
the state?
to, yeah, you can go on to the state.
I'm going to take your
IS.
word for it, Caleb.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Believe it or not, I'm going to take your word.
Believe you.
so that's one limitation.
Interesting.
But this lot is not under that protection.
So you think that's why they're
One
probably...
reason, I think.
Okay.
One reason.
Thank
And-
you.
And it's clear
All right.
right now.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate the enlightenment.
Yep. I don't know if staff agree, but but that's one thing I found out. But and I also do some just calculation, figure out, well, what can be developed in MU, and it seems like you have a 3,000 land area, so square feet per dwelling unit, so that comes to 57 dwelling unit. And then there's a FAR, max FAR is 2, so that yields about, I think, 6,000 square feet per dwelling unit. They can be pretty big size, but I mean, that's assuming I do. I mean, just do the math on based on the table, so there's that.
I appreciate it, Caleb. Thank you.
But I also observed that SMU also have no height limit. So I know there is a tower next to a boathouse. So I mean, that will be of some concern. I know it's across from the cross point, or the old Wang factory. So there's not as many single-family houses. I think that's one staff that flagged there's not a lot of single-family houses around, so that's not as big of a concern, I think. And I remember when it's more than 3 units, then it comes to us for site plan review. So I mean, we still have a check in case of like whatever that was supposed. And I think just thinking ahead, it will be. I think we'll need to see how that tie in with the boat ramp, so that it's not to our place. But I think it can be done, and so that's just some insights that I dig up.
Mr. Chairman, can I just pick up, because Caleb was very insightful there, and Dan's suggestion, and that's the kind of suggestion that gets everybody all kind of concerned. If you look at the Pawtuckaville Master Plan, which was adopted by the City Council, an official document, people choose to ignore it, I think, many times. A lot of work was done on that. I worked on it for 2 years. But there was some controversy over trying to come up with a suburban waterfront district, and what some planners thought it should look like, and what the neighborhood was concerned about. And so I think that's something that has to really looked at in a comprehensive way. But to Caleb's point, one of the things not having the height requirements, and look at the grand view, and you've got a residential neighborhood like right behind it. And so there's a lot of things. When we had the market basket come before us, it was one of the things we didn't want to have the big towering clock. That they were going to propose that. It was a great thing. No, that's not what we want. Something subtler out there. And that they went along with it. So I would encourage that's not just to be a bunch of planners sitting in a back room coming up with. It really has to engage that neighborhood out there, because there's a lot of thought on how we want that to be developed, and you've got the regatta field out there, and so it's just there's a lot of things to consider. But I just think from this particular property, I think where the boat ramp is, I just think there's some opportunities here. So anyways, that's just my offering my little background on that whole strip of land. So,
Lucia, any questions or comments?
No questions or comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Tal, any questions, comments?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the site too, but one of my bigger questions is that the new bridge is going to be,
Oh, we're getting to that later with Jerry.
right next to that.
We're getting to that.
So how is that going to?
Oh, yeah, you got all this stuff here.
So I was just wondering.
Oh, yeah.
you could, yeah,
Sure.
it's
That,
good.
part of that.
Yeah.
No, it's actually going to add value to the site, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, was there any question about the rezoning? No? Yeah, I have no problems with the city wants to develop it. I'm sure the city's looked into it a lot of ways. I'm sure planning staff looked into it. The managers looked into it. I have no problems with the zoning change at all. So, I'll make a motion that we recommend the zoning change to the city council.
I second
A
that.
favorable recommendation, I should say, is the term. Yeah. A favorable recommendation to the council.
I think it's Tell.
Ty, second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is allowed. The next matter is a zoning amendment at 121-135 Branch Street. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the code ordinance City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290, therefore entitled Lowell Zoning Code, extending the existing traditional mixed-use zoning district to include an area currently zoned traditional multifamily at the above address as mentioned, 121-135 Branch Street.
Yes, so this property is another property that the city is looking to rezone to encourage redevelopment. This was spurred because 129 Branch Street has been vacant for at least 15 years, and it's falling into disrepair. It's a large mixed-use building or formerly mixed-use building that is vacant. Several of the buildings, it's not just that building that's being proposed to be rezoned, it's a string of buildings, because we're not allowed to spot zone, we're not allowed to just zone that one, rezone that one property. All of the properties that lead up to that property need to be included. But all of them, or not, I don't think it's actually all of them, but most of them appear to have been, have commercial on the first floor at some point in recent history. And the major issue with the current zone of traditional multifamily is that it limits the total number of residential units to 6, making redevelopment not financially feasible. So right now in the zoning district that 129 Branch Street parcel is located in, it can only be up to 6 residential units, but it can't even have ground floor commercial, which it looks like it originally did have ground floor commercial. That wouldn't be allowed. And with such a large building in such bad shape, a 6-unit residential structure, it just wouldn't pencil out in terms of the numbers. So by rezoning the property to traditional mixed use, it would allow for a greater number of residential units by special permit and would allow commercial and retail uses. Any proposal with more than 3 dwelling units would still require site plan review. So it's likely that the board would be reviewing any proposed redevelopment of the parcel, but really the goal here is to just make it even possible to redevelop the parcel, because right now it's not, essentially it's impossible to redevelop the parcel and it will continue to fall into disrepair. It's obviously a historic building and we want to see it redeveloped as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody, open up to the public, anybody want to speak in favor of the zoning amendment on Branch Street? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none? Anybody like to speak in opposition on the zoning amendment for 121, 135 Branch Street? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none? This time I'll turn it over to board members. Any board members have any questions or comments? Can I start with you, Dan?
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, went by the addresses. One of them looked familiar. I didn't know why, and had to hearken back to about 35, 40 years ago. Apparently, my wife ran a dance studio in one of those buildings 35 years ago. I don't think it's a conflict. It was 35 years ago, so. But 125.
I hope you know how to dance.
Yeah, what's this?
I hope you know how to dance.
I don't. I'm bad. But to Ms. Sigliano's point, 125, 129, and 135 all had storefronts at one point that you could tell by the layout. So this certainly makes sense to me to have both businesses and residences, and you know, and if at some point we deem it proper to have more than 6 residences, we can do it.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lucy, you have any questions, comments?
I agree with Member Tenza. Some of those properties were definitely intended for mixed use, and by rezoning to TMU, the existing residential buildings within the block, they can remain as is with no obligation for the owners to modify or redevelop them. So we're not, you know, changing them as is. However, by going to TMU, we also create an opportunity to breathe new life into those vacant parcels and support revitalization efforts that benefit the broader neighborhood. That's
Thank you.
all.
Caleb, any questions, comments?
No, just an observation. That building was big, and looked sad. So I agree with the city vision for revitalizing that area.
I'm in favor of the zone change. Jerry?
Yeah, I would agree with all the comments, and also uniquely, I think it's one of the few neighborhoods, that whole area and heading into like the Palian Market is in Middlesex Street, it's one of the few areas where I think that mixed use is successful, right, with businesses, and I mean, that's, you go there on a Saturday, there's more commerce going on in that part of the city than any other part of the city, right? If you go downtown, there's tumbleweeds going by, and you go there, and there's a lot of commerce taking place. It really is fantastic. So I think it'll actually, I think it's giving it a chance to succeed. I really do, so.
Thank you. Sal, questions, comments?
I agree.
Jovison, yeah, you good? Okay, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to the city council for the zone change. Motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition, hearing none, motion carries. Moving along for other business, I'll turn on to Mr. Fischett.
Mr. Chairman, last Tuesday at the charter school, which we
Approved.
charter school that we approved.
Which
And
took a
actually,
little bit of time,
what a nice-
approving.
Yeah, and it was we went through a lot, but it turned out to be a beautiful facility over there. And I do have handouts here. Thank you. Because I have a construction schedule, because that way there, Mr. Tanzar can refer to it when, did I give out too many of them? Hold on. How many- Did I give you guys two?
Three, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah,
one.
I get one easier. Wait a minute, do I have next one here? Yeah.
Yeah, and then.
So we got the schedule.
Okay, we have enough. All right.
All right, we got the schedule.
Yeah, so we do have the timeline. So right now, work is going on out there. It's an 18-month design duration. Construction activities begin this summer, I'm sorry, it already began. Initial work will consist of investigatory borings and field activities June through August, and then tree vegetation clearing August through September. And this is when people will start to really take notice. Temporary trestle construction in the fall of 2025. And then full beneficial use of the Rourke Bridge is anticipated in 2029. That was moved up. It was originally 2028. So it is 2029, with final completion of the project is expected by 2030. And they did have a comprehensive packet. I may want to just pass it around, but it was really,
Nice in color, huh?
yeah, no, and the meeting was well attended. I think there was a little over 100 people there. I think the presentation was done very well. I do know some people in other communities that tried to listen in. I think they tried it on whatever they tried to, and the audio wasn't very good in the gym. So, but if you were there in person, it was actually a very good meeting. Went through the timeline. There was a question and answer session as well. I thought it was, they did a great job informing the public. And they plan to have additional meetings as well as the project progresses, so. But it really is, and they've made it very, very clear that the funding is secure. Because we're talking, at this point, this is going to be one of the more expensive projects, highway projects in the state, but, we're talking, $300 million somewhere in that area, so that's great. It's gone up around 80 million from when they started. If I remember correctly, looking at the original numbers, there is an escalator clause in there. I mean, it's taking into account the time lapse here from when you start to when you finish, so. But it was nice to see actually the progress beginning, and they reassured folks the way they're going to do this is work, and it shows the work progression. They'll be starting from the Pawtucket Boulevard side and working their way across, so that the last bit of work they do is the connection to the existing location on Wood Street. So at no time are we going to lose the use of the bridge. So, and it's going to be an 84-foot wide bridge. So 4 lanes, 2 lanes going in each direction, and 2 pedestrian bike lanes too, 1 on each side, plus the observation decks. So it really is, like I said, tell everybody to stay healthy so you can see the completion of this.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
So I just have one notice is, as all the board members know, is this is Fran's last meeting, and we're going to be sorry to miss her. We wish her well, but we want to thank you for all your hard work you've done over the years, and obviously responding to most of our questions, especially all of Jerry's questions. I won't mention Dan, but we'll let that go. No, but we wish you very well, and thank you very much for all your hard work, and now we're going to miss you. And you know where to find us if you ever come back to around this area and get back involved in this type of planning in this area. But
Yes, thank you.
thank you very much. We wish you well. Let's give them a round of applause.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you all. It's been great working with you and getting to know you all.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a ball.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. We have adjourned. Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Which is your last day? You have your last day scheduled yet? August 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.